Welcome to the review of my 2010 Audi A4. In this video, I'm going to go over what the car is like to drive and kind of what it's like to live with as well. Just some background on the car and my ownership of the car. I've had the car since October of 2016. Since owning the car, I've put 15,000 miles on it. And the car has actually been pretty great for all of those 15,000 miles. I'm going to go over what it's like in the interior in the A4. The 2010 A4 has a really nice interior. It doesn't have any bad, like hard plastics or anything like that. It's actually a really nice place to be. And for long road trips, the interior is very good. It's very quiet and kind of isolated. Kind of makes you feel like you're in your own little cocoon. It has a leather steering wheel, leather seats, heated front seats. Doesn't have heated rear seats. Has triple zone climate control, which works very well. The car also has plenty of storage space. I'd say for a car this size. It has really huge door pockets on both sides. It also has a center armrest that opens up and you can store stuff down in there. It also has a little slot next to the cup holders, which is about a perfect size for a smartphone. It also has two cup holders, one of which is very unusable, and I don't know what they expect you to put in it, but a regular cup doesn't fit in it. So there's that. The car also has heated mirrors, which that's a really good thing if you live in a cold climate. It works great. Now, talking about the car's infotainment system, the Audi console system in this car works really great. It sounds great. You can also get an optional Bang & Olufsen system in this car, which I've heard in other Audis, and it does sound good, but it doesn't sound that much better than the regular Audi console system, in my opinion. Now, something that I really do not like about this car's sound system is that the car has Bluetooth, but you can't do audio streaming with the Bluetooth, and that's something that they introduced in the B8.5 cars. This car is a B8, so I believe that's 2013 or 12 cars that have Bluetooth streaming, and that's just kind of a downside because I'm pretty sure like some other cars from this era had that. Well, I don't know why this one doesn't. But what you do get in this car, in the glove box, you get an Apple 30-pin connector where you can plug an iPod or old iPhone into to get music that way, or you get an SD card that you can put into the radio to get your music that way. The car has satellite radio too, which also works pretty good. It's about what you'd expect from satellite radio. Next, we're gonna move to the back seat, and I'll give you a look at the back seat space in the A4. So now we're in the back seat of the A4, and it's pretty comfortable back here too. It's got plenty of leg room in the back. Me sitting behind myself, and I'm 5'9". I've got plenty of leg room back here. You've also, like I mentioned before, the car also has triple zone climate control, so back seat occupants in the car have their own controls back here for heating and AC. You also have a 12-volt power outlet back here as well. There's also a center folding armrest in the back seat, and it has a compartment that opens up that gives you more storage space. Now, the back doors also have storage compartments in them too, but it's not as good as the ones in the front doors, obviously, but it's doable. And you've got two cup holders in the back of the A4 as well, in the center armrest. And something I was talking about earlier, back in the front seat of the car, everything back here is covered in either a nice soft touch material or leather. There's like no bad surfaces anywhere in this car on the interior, and it just really feels very nice and luxurious. So now in this part of the video, I'm going to go over what it's like to drive the A4. And like I said earlier in the video, I've had this car for a few months now, and I put about 15,000 miles on it. So I'm just going to tell you what it's like to drive, and tell you also about the engine options and things like that that you can get with this car. It starts out, if you get the base car, the two-wheel drive version, or front-wheel drive version, that comes with a 1.8 liter turbo 4-cylinder, and then you also have the 2.0 liter turbo 4-cylinder engine too. And Audi discontinued the 3.2 liter V6, which was naturally aspirated. They discontinued that in 2010. But if you still wanted a V6 and an A4 platform of car, then you could get the S4, but that's a completely different car than this car is, but still basically an A4. Now, this engine makes 211 horsepower and I believe 269 foot-pounds of torque, which the torque in this car, you really feel it. If you just get on it, you really will feel the torque and the power that this car has. It just goes it's just good. It's really good with the power delivery. And it's also the power delivery in this car is also very smooth and like linear for a turbocharged engine. It's not like there's every now and then you'll get hints of turbo lag, but it's not very common in a way, if that makes sense. So that's that with it. In this car you can also have a 6-speed manual or 6-speed automatic transmission. This one has the automatic, but if you want, you can put the car, it has a little manual mode that you can put it into just by basically kicking the shifter over when it's in drive, kicking it over, and you can shift the gears manually if you want to do that, which that works good enough. And I mean, that gives you pretty good driving feel and enjoyment from the car. The transmission also has a sport mode, which basically just feels like it kind of sharpens throttle response a little bit. Well, I guess as a whole, sharpens throttle response, and it also holds the gears a little bit longer when you're driving. So I guess so you get that sporty feel, so you can rev it all the way out. So it does that. Also, the MPG that this car gets 21 city and 27 highway. Now, I've rarely ever got those numbers. Sometimes it's a little bit better, sometimes it's not, but my average, I find, is about 24 miles combined is what I find with the car. Now, something that I don't like about this car and the transmission of the car, since we're talking about the driving dynamics of the car, which if you want to find out more things I don't like about this car, I have a video which I'll link to in the description below about the things I don't like about the car. But the way that the transmission is programmed when you just have it in regular, like, standard drive, is like sometimes you'll just need to pass someone, or you want to have a little fun getting on a highway on-ramp, and the car, it just kind of seems like it kind of stumbles on its face a little sometimes, because the transmission just doesn't downshift when it needs to. It doesn't downshift every now and then when as fast as it needs to. And of course, if you're driving around with the car in manual mode, or the transmission is in sport mode, then it works fine. You don't have that problem. But I feel like majority of the people that'll buy these kind of cars are just gonna stick it in drive, and that's all they're gonna do. They're just gonna go. And I feel like that's kind of a problem. I mean, I've noticed other cars don't really do that. Other, like, cars in this car segment, like the 328i and the Mercedes C-Class, they don't really do that like this car does it. And I noticed it's not really just an A4 thing, it's also in other Audi models, because I've recently driven 2 Audi A6s. Both had automatic transmissions, and they both seem to do it. And the latter of the 2 A6s I drove was a 2014 A6, and that car has an 8-speed transmission, and that car is just on a whole nother level than this car, and it's just worse with how it does it. I mean, of course, if you stick it in manual mode, use the paddles, it's fine, but that's just something I just really don't like about the car, and almost wish that they would have just worked that out. And as far as it goes too with the driving dynamics, the car is pretty sporty to be what it is. It offers really good driving enjoyment if you take it out on back roads and things like that. It's pretty good for that. I mean, the car does weigh, I want to say 3,800 pounds, so it's not a light car by any stretch of the imagination, but it is still really good around back roads. The car does feel somewhat nimble, and it's just an all-around great car to drive. I recently took this car on an 800-mile road trip, and the car handled it fantastically. Like, the cabin is quiet. Like, I'm sitting here right now in traffic driving around, and I can talk to a camera, no problem. It just works. The car is, like, incredibly quiet when you want it to be. It's also really comfortable when you're driving it too. You go over bumps, most of them you don't even really feel. They don't really upset the car or anything like that. So I find that to be a good thing about the car and how it drives too. That's really about it. So in conclusion, I say the 2010 A4 is a great car all around. It's a pretty good car for a starter car. It's also pretty good if you want something somewhat sporty and luxurious too. Please feel free to subscribe and comment with any questions you may have, and come back for more videos about this 2010 A4 in the future. Have a good day, and thanks for watching.